What is up, farming family? How y'all doing today? Today, we're checking out and talking about the Electrum Model E Elite. We've been playing with this for the last 4 or 5 play sessions we've been going out. We've put a lot of play into this because I was going to do a review and I was like, okay, let's just wait a minute. Let me play with it a little bit longer because it has a very unique feel to it. You guys are going to hear me talk about that in this video, probably during the specs and throughout the rest of the video. But let's get into this. I hope y'all are doing good. The core thickness of this paddle is 16 millimeters. The weight range is 8.0 to 8.3 ounces. With the regular Electrum Model E, it would vary a decent amount. I haven't weighed this one to see what it weighs, but I know the Electrum E's, the regular ones, would vary a pretty good amount. The handle length is 5¼ inch. The grip circumference is 4.5 inches. It's a beefy fella. The paddle length is 16.5 inches. The paddle width is 7.37 inches. Another feature on it is a graphene reinforced carbon fiber core. It's supposed to enhance the durability and the stiffness. You'll hear me talk about the stiffness throughout this video. It's got a graphene reinforced raw carbon fiber face as well. It has wholesale honeycomb condensed core. And it has, thermoformed and foamed edges.
So for the Electrum Elite, I really feel like this paddle has a good solid pop to it. It definitely has enough for you to put balls away and hit good solid drives and good overheads. This thing is really good with the power and how hard you can hit it.
Yeah, he's definitely got a point. When it comes to the pop of this paddle, it is pretty poppy. It is a very stiff feeling paddle. Unlike all the other thermoformed foamed edge paddles I've used, although they are a lot stiffer than your Generation 1 raw carbon fiber paddles, I felt like this was even stiffer than the other thermoformed, foamed edge paddles. And when you went to put away, the ball with overheads or do drives, I felt like there was a significant amount of pop when the ball hit the paddle. Now, I'm not going to say that it's, the strongest and the most powerful of all the thermoformed foamed edge paddles, but it is definitely up there on the list if I was going to rank it, like in the top 3.
The control of this paddle is really good. Surprisingly, I thought it was going to be super poppy, but it's surprisingly really easy to control. I would say it is definitely more stiffer than the Rhombus R3 Pulsar, but it is definitely easy to control though.
Yeah, when it came to the control, it was a very soft feeling paddle. Okay, I've been using the Pro Drive Carbon, and the way that paddle's set up is for when you're dinking and playing with the soft game, you feel the raw carbon fiber, you feel the softness of it, but then when you swing harder, you're supposed to feel the Kevlar. Now, it's sort of similar with the Electrum Model E Elite. They're not doing like 2 different layers or anything like that, but when you're dinking and stuff, it sounds like a regular raw carbon fiber thermoform paddle, and it feels like it. But then when you're putting power on it and stuff, it sounds completely different. Everybody I played with noticed it. But this paddle is like in a perfect blend of power and control. It does a little bit of both while feeling completely unique altogether.
For the spin of this paddle, I would definitely say it generates more than enough spin. It is on par with the rest of the thermoform foam edge paddles.
In terms of spin, the 14 millimeters and 13 millimeters will generally have more spin than the 16 millimeters, despite people thinking, the 16 millimeters will have a longer dwell time, so it'll have more spin. But this paddle is really, really stiff, and the ball doesn't sit on the face nowhere near as long as it does the other thermoform foamed edge paddles. But when I was playing, I felt like I was still getting a crazy amount of spin. So I'm very curious what Chris from Pickleball Studio, has put this as RPMs, because I didn't look. I just wanted to do a review of how I felt the spin was before, I, see other people's influences. I only saw the part where he mentioned me at the beginning because I was wanting to watch the rest of it after I dropped this. In terms of maneuverability, it's pretty heavy. Like all these thermoform foamed edge paddles are going to be heavier than the Generation 1 raw carbon fiber paddles are. So if you have small wrists or anything like that, you're not going to be able to use most of these thermoform foamed edge paddles. I've had, women try, some of these, and I've had men try some of these, and they're like, man, these are on the heavier end, aren't they? And I'm like, well, yeah, they've got the extra, carbon fiber on the edges. They've got the extra foam. There's just extra materials that are up there that are going to hurt people who, either skinnier, smaller builds or, have arm problems. It's made into two pieces. It's not a complete unibody design paddle. The face and the handle is completely different, but it is thermoformed and foamed edges. So I don't see you having any problems with it at all unless you're doing something crazy like snapping it over your knee, which you shouldn't be doing that anyways. So I don't see durability being an issue at all. And they're using graphene inside of, in the face of the paddle. And it's supposed to be really strong and durable. So we're going to see if that stops, the delaminating issue, because I've not heard anything about the Electrum Model E Elite having delaminating issues yet. So, and that is a big thing thermoformed, paddle users are worried about at this point in time. In terms of customization, I took off the regular grip and put on 2 over grips in its place. I really don't like the grips they put on this paddle. My other gripe is also the short handle, and it's a little chunky. I would rather it be a smaller handle so I can build up with overgrips than it automatically being chunky. And everybody else has been going to 5.5 inch handles, so I'm used to that. So going to this felt a little weird, to be honest. Even though I've played with the Electrum Model E, that my son has, a fairly decent amount.
So for $200, this paddle does come in a little bit more on the pricier side. But if you are willing to pay $200 for a paddle, I would definitely buy this paddle because it does feel great. My only problem with it is the handle's a little too short, and I do prefer a little bit longer handles.
For the price at $200, this is definitely way up there compared to the other thermoform foamed edge paddles. Here's the thing though. If this was a $200 paddle and it felt identical to the Vatic or the Legacy or the Rhombus paddles, I would be like, there's literally no point in getting this paddle at all. Like, it would just be a waste of extra money. But this paddle feels significantly different than all the other thermoform foamed edge paddles, that I've used. So if I'm, a paddle junkie and I'm curious about the paddles, I would probably spend the money to get this paddle just to try it, just because of how different it feels. I don't know if it's the graphene that's causing that, but it definitely feels different to me. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope it helps you make a decision, on whether to get the Electrum Model E Elite. Hopefully they come out with one in the future with a 5.5 inch handle that's a little bit thinner. I would love to try that. Oh my gosh, especially with, how stiff the paddle feels. My brother loves this paddle. This is probably in his top 3 paddles now. I will never ever see this paddle again. I've noticed whenever we do serious games and stuff, he will either grab this one, the bread and butter paddle. He was doing the Carbon 1X there for a little bit, but we think it's showing signs of delaminating, so we're sort of holding off on it. But until next time, stay safe, have a good day, drink plenty of water. Peace, y'all.